Comenzamos el bloque informativo en Extra News.
And welcome to Hannity. And tonight we are back at Joint Base Elmendorf, Richardson, and we are in beautiful Anchorage, Alaska, and the historic summit between President Donald Trump and President from Russia, Vladimir Putin, is now in the books. But not before Vladimir got an up-close look at the power, the sophistication, the strength, the might of the U.S. military with this incredible, perfectly timed flyover featuring a B-2 stealth bomber and 4 F-35 stealth fighters. Now, following that epic show of force, both leaders met for roughly 3 hours. What happened? How did the meeting go? And what's next for Russia and Ukraine? Joining us now for his very first post-summit interview, the president of our great country. Sir, how are you?
Thank you very much.
We're glad you could be here.
Thank you.
So you said before the interview, you said, in 2 minutes, I will know. I watched very closely when you met him on the red carpet after both your planes landed. What vibe did you get in 2 minutes?
Well, you know, I always had a great relationship with President Putin, and we would have done great things together in terms of, you know, their land is incredible. The rare earth, the oil, gas, everything, it's incredible. It's the largest piece of land in the world as a nation by far. I think they have 11 time zones, if you can believe it. That's big stuff. But we would have done a lot of great things, but we had the Russia hoax, which stopped us from doing that. We would have done so great, but we had one of the great hoaxes. I mean, there were others, like the election itself, as you know, as you covered better than anyone. But it was a rigged election and a horrible thing that took place in 2020. But we would have had a great relationship, but we did amazingly well, considering, you know, he would look and see what happened. He would think we're crazy, you know, with the made-up Russia hoax. So we had something very important, and we had a very good meeting today, but we'll see. I mean, it's, you know, you have to get a deal. We agreed on a lot of points. I want to see people stop dying in Ukraine, and that's what's happening. We're losing 5, 6, 7,000. They're Russians, mostly Russians, and they're Ukrainian soldiers. There's some people dying in cities and towns where they're trying to blow up missile manufacturers and other things in some cities. I don't know if you know what's going on there, but there are a lot of people dying. And if we can end that war, it would be very good. And I was very happy to hear him say, if I was president, that war would have never happened.
Mr. President, that was my next question. He said at the joint press conference that if, and you have said this many, many times, and he confirmed for the world today, that if you were president, this wouldn't have happened. Did any of the specifics come up as to why he said that?
It did. It doesn't matter at this point, but that this war should never have happened. You know, a lot of wars should never have happened. There was stupid things go down and the wrong people are talking, but Biden was a terrible president in so many ways. He should have never let it happen, and it did. There are millions of people killed. I mean, it's the worst thing since I see everyone saying worst since World War II by far. There's nothing even close. But we had a very good meeting today, and I think a lot of points were negotiated on behalf of Ukraine and on behalf of, you know, the whole NATO situation, where we're dealing very well with a lot of foreign countries that are great, European countries. Look, as far as I'm concerned, there's no deal until there's a deal, but we did make a lot of progress.
The meeting took place in this room.
Yeah.
This is where you met, right in this room.
Did. Well, let me examine it. Oh, there it is.
That's where you were sitting.
That's it. I would say that's it. Yep.
So did you have alone time with him?
Yeah, I did. I did actually after our speeches. He made a very good speech, and I also finished it up. And afterwards, we spoke. Right after that, we spoke very sincerely. I think he wants to see it done.
Yeah. In your press conference, you talked about a lot of things that you agreed on, and maybe one big issue you don't agree on. Are you prepared to go public with that?
No, I'd rather not. I guess somebody's going to go public with it. They'll figure it out. But no, I don't want to do that. I want to see if we can get it done. You know, it's not a done deal at all. Mm-hmm. And Ukraine has to agree. I mean, you know, President Zelensky has to agree. But it's a terrible war where he's losing a lot, and both of them are. And hopefully it can get completed. That'll be a great achievement for them. Forget about me, for them. And you'll save 7,000 lives a week. That's a lot.
I spoke very briefly to Secretary of State Rubio, and he did say to me, he goes, there's a difference when you're in the same room together than versus, you know, talking to each other through the press.
Even through the phone? You know,
even through the phone.
It's not the same thing. When you're on a telephone, it's not the same thing either. This was, I mean, we were together almost 3 hours, and it was very extensive, and we agreed on a lot of points. I mean, a lot of points were agreed on, but there's not that much. There's, you know, one or two pretty significant items, but I think they can be reached. Now it's really up to President Zelensky to get it done. And I would also say the European nations, they have to get involved a little bit, but it's up to President Zelensky. I think we are, and if they'd like, I'll be at that next meeting. They're going to set up a meeting now between President Zelensky and President Putin. And myself, I guess, you know, I didn't ask you about it. Not that I want to be there, but I want to make sure it gets done. And we have a pretty good chance of getting it done.
If you had to grade it on a scale of 1 to 10?
So I think the meeting was a 10 in the sense that we got along great, and it's good when, you know, two big powers get along, especially when they're nuclear powers. You know, we're number one, they're number two in the world, and it's a big deal. That's a big deal. You never want to even mention that word, the word nuclear, but we have a tremendous nuclear. You know, I rebuilt it when I was president, first term, and I hated to rebuild it. It was the one thing I hated to rebuild, but we had to. And we have the greatest nuclear force. We have the greatest military in the world, actually, and they have a big nuclear presence also.
Oh, you got to respect it. You
always have to respect it. You never want to use it. If you use that, it could be the end of the world. That's the kind of power we're talking about.
Let's talk about what brought President Putin to the table. I would argue that there are 4 things in my mind. If you think there are more or you don't think they were a factor, you did the trade deal with the European Union, and in that deal, you got nearly $1 trillion in commitments to purchase American oil. Yeah. That's money that would otherwise be funding Putin's war machine. That's number one. India, 50% tariffs if they import Russian oil. You also, Vladimir Putin was moving at a speed you were comfortable with, so you said you would, unlike Biden, you wouldn't give weapons to Ukraine, you would sell weapons to Ukraine. The last thing, and I don't think it could be underestimated, is NATO is now paying twice what they were paying, and those countries that weren't paying their fair share are. Were those the 4 factors that brought him into this room today?
Well, NATO is now paying 5% as opposed to 2%, and they're paying it. And, you know, look, it's headed by, as you know Mark very well. He's a great guy and great people. The leaders, I got to know him very well about 6 weeks ago. And great relationship with NATO, European nations basically, but a great relationship. I don't want to say anything brought him to, he's a very smart guy. Nothing brought him to the table, so to speak. I think that he respects our country now. He didn't respect it under Biden, I can tell you that. He had no respect for it. I was so happy when he said this would have never happened. All those lives would be saved if they had a competent, if we had a competent president. Those lives would have been saved. It's so sad. You know, I've negotiated 5 wars to their end. And wars that were tough. India,
Actually, I have
Pakistan.
7. India, Pakistan, Israel, Iran in 12 days, Rwanda, the Congo, Serbia, Kosovo, Cambodia, Thailand, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Egypt, Cambodia. You played a role in all of those, did you not?
I did. I didn't want to include the decimation of the nuclear arsenal, and because I don't consider it necessarily, conclusive. But we did something amazing, because for 22 years, no president was willing to do it. We decimated the nuclear capability, potential nuclear capability, which I think would have taken place within a month of Iran. And that was a big thing.
I have to go back. This is too historic and deep and profound. At a press conference, the president of Russia stated something that you had stated many, many times, and maybe people, your political opponents, might have dismissed. But he said this war would not have taken place if you were president. Now, he did give you behind the scenes specific reasons why it happened under Biden. He did give you reasons.
Yeah, he did, but I know the reason. It's gross incompetence. I mean, we have a border that's totally closed now, and people come in, but they come in legally. But we had 0, as you know. The first time you heard it was 3 months ago, but we've done it now 3 times in a row. 0 people coming in illegally. We have many things that are going well now. Our economy is great. We don't have inflation. The price of energy is down. The price of groceries are down. The price of everything is down. People are happy. We're saving Social Security. You saw that the other day, where we have a genius in charge. I took him out of J.P. Morgan Chase. He was the head of, one of the top people in there, and he did great. He went to one of the big funds. One of the top people. They take a cut. I think he said he's working for 1% of what he was working for. These are unbelievable people. And the job he's done in Social Security and making it really powerful and strong is amazing. And we've done that with many things. I love doing it. I love seeing this country be great again. And Vladimir said just a little while ago, he said, I've never seen anybody do so much so fast. He said, your country is like hot as a pistol. And a year ago, he thought it was dead. Everybody thought it was dead.
Let me ask you this. We mentioned, to whatever degree history will judge your involvement in the 7 conflicts we mentioned, and this conflict in particular, however they will end up judging you, I don't think any other world leader would have been able to set up this meeting today. You're expending a lot of political capital. I've watched a lot of leaders. I've been doing this since 1987 when I started my radio career. It's a long time. And I've seen a lot of presidents come and go, a lot of world leaders come and go. And you're willing to expend political capital. All of the conflicts that I mentioned, including this one, this does not impact the United States as much as it does our allies in Europe.
It's true.
The Middle East, when we get involved in the Middle East, but you're doing it anyway. Now, why? Is it to save lives? Do you want a safer world?
Yeah, number one, to save lives in all cases, because wars are wars. When you see what would have happened with Cambodia as an example. Now, I'm not involved, but I was involved in negotiating a trade deal, and I said, you guys are going to be fighting Thailand, Cambodia, so many different. Look at India. Take a look at India and Pakistan. They were shooting down airplanes already, and that would have been maybe nuclear. I would have said it was going to go nuclear, and I was able to get it done. Number one is lives, and number two is everything else. Wars are very bad, and if you can avoid them, and I seem to have an ability to end them, to get people together. I use the power of the United States. We have got the greatest economy now in the world. We have trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars, or millions. We have trillions of dollars pouring into our coffers. I'm getting calls from people in government saying, where did I get the $29 billion from? I said, why don't you try the tariff shelf? And, we have, as an example, the European nations, we made a great deal. They pay us literally trillions of dollars. Japan, so many. And you know what? They like us better. They respect us. They didn't respect us. They were paying us nothing. Nothing. We were paying them. They weren't paying us. And I turned it around, and we're actually a very rich country now. You know, I told you my favorite word is the word tariff. I actually made that a little bit later because I got criticized by the fake news. You know, they said, what about religion? What about family?
Well, how many countries now have you made trade deals with, and how much is it incoming?
Many of them, and well, basically all of them, because I made, along with some great people, as you know them very well, they're on your show, but I made, I would say 12 or 13 of the big ones. In other words, we made the big deals, and the rest we just assign a tariff to. And we do that by gut instinct. We do that by how we're doing generally, the relationship, and we do it also by deficits. If we're losing a lot of money with a country, you got to pay us a tariff. We got to make it even. We want to balance it out. And I was generous to a lot. Some of them we lose so much money that, frankly, you'll never make it up. And if they're people that have been great to us as a country, then I take it a little bit easy. But for years, we've been a laughing stock all over the world, the way they took advantage of us. Now, in my first term, I did it, but we got hit with COVID. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country in my first term, but at the end of it, we got hit with a thing called COVID. You may have heard of it. And it decimated the world, the whole world. And we did a phenomenal job, Operation Warp Speed. A lot of people say it was one of the most incredible things they've ever seen. Operation Warp Speed, what we did a great job. But this was a tremendous problem for everybody. I mean, every country, even China, in all fairness, they got hit much later. People thought they avoided it. They got hit very hard. Everybody got hit. But we did a job like nobody's seen, and we came back, and we had a country that was respected again. And then we had this person get in there that had no right being president. He lost the election by a lot. His whole group was radical left, crazy people. And I'll tell you, our country was we were in a whole heap of trouble. And if that whole ideology didn't change, I think our country would have been dead. You know, they say it. I was with also the King of Saudi Arabia, the head of Qatar, the head of UAE, about 3 months ago now already. The time flies. And they put up $5.1 trillion investment in our country. And we have about $17 trillion coming into our country. The numbers like we've never seen before. And by the way, this is after 6 months. This is this is after 6 months. We never had numbers like that after years. And our country is so hot, and we're building so many factories. The car companies that left, they're pouring back. The AI, which is a hot thing, we're leading China by a lot. We're leading everybody with AI. You know, a lot of these geniuses that you read about, they really are geniuses. I hope they're right. They're spending $50 billion to build a plant and $90 billion. You know, you think of $50 million for building a plant. No, they're building $50 billion, $90 billion. They're going to Arizona. They're going all over the country. Arizona is a hot spot, but they're going all over the country. And we're way ahead of everybody else. And, the biggest problem they had, they couldn't do the energy because the energy is massive. We need more electricity by twice that we have right now. In other words, as a country, we produce a lot of electricity. We need double that electricity at least to win the AI fight. Can you believe that? One industry needs it. And so you can't just do that off the grid. The grid is old and it's fine, but it's old and tired and is subject to all sorts of problems. And I came up with an idea. I'm going to let you build your own electric plant. So we have these companies building these massive factories of intelligence, factories of genius, I call it, and they build their own electric plant with it. And I say, build them big. And we have a great person, Lee Zeldin, is approving them very quickly and environmentally friendly and all of that, but very, very quickly. And an amazing thing's happening. Wait till you see what happens when these things start to open.
Let me go back to this issue of Ukraine and Russia for a second. Most people, as they analyze this from the outside, this is how almost everybody's kind of universal thinking, how this ends. There's going to be some land swaps. There will be more Russian territory than there had been. And what Ukraine wants and needs desperately is our security measures that won't be NATO related. If you had to look into your crystal ball, is that how it ends?
Well, I think those are points that we negotiated, and those are points that we largely have agreed on, actually. I think we've agreed on a lot. And I can tell you, the meeting was a very warm meeting. You know, he's a strong guy, he's tough as hell and all of that. But the meeting was a very warm meeting between two very important countries, and it's very good when they get along. I think we're pretty close to a deal. Now, look, Ukraine has to agree to it. Maybe they'll say no, because Biden handed out money like it was candy, and Europe gave him a lot of money. You know, we gave him $350 billion. Europe gave him much less, but still a lot, $100 billion.
What would your advice, based on today, when you talk to Vladimir Zelensky, what's your advice to...
make a deal.
Make the deal.
Got to make a deal, yeah. Look, Russia's a very big power, and they're not. They're great soldiers, and they have great, but, you know, they also had the best equipment. You know, they had our equipment. And I gave them javelins, if you remember, in my first term. In fact, there was a statement, I gave javelins. You remember the statement? I gave javelins, and Obama gave, because it was Obama at that time, Obama gave them sheets. And that's true. I gave javelins, and a lot of tanks were knocked out because of the javelins. The javelins, incredible weapon. It's a tank. You know, you look at this big, powerful tank, it ends up being a ball of metal lying on the ground and burning. I've never seen anything like it. We have the greatest military equipment in the world, but they did have courage in fighting. And, you know, they're fighting a big war machine. And we, I think, are close to a deal, but I don't like saying it. I always say, if I'm really close, I say 50-50, because so many things can happen. But I think President Putin would like to solve the problem, and it was a problem that should have never happened. This was a war. All of those families that lost somebody, and I have a book of thousands of people. They presented me with it today. Thousands of people, prisoners that will get released. We have 1,000, more than 1,000 prisoners
that was agreed to today.
Well, they have to accept them. You know, they're going to release them. They have to accept them. I have a book of it's so sad to see. And then you have another book of people that are dead, and they have dead bodies all over, thousands of them, that they want to switch between the two countries.
And you saw the pictures?
I saw pictures of the dead, yeah, of some of the dead, but I saw pictures of over 1,000 people that are prisoners, yeah, today.
Let me ask you.
That we can get back.
Okay, so you're cutting into Russia's main source of energy, a main source of income, which is energy. You make this deal with the European Union. You tell India, if you keep importing oil from Russia, we're going to put a 50% tax on you. The other big importer would be China. My understanding is you've had conversations with President Xi. Any conversations about Russia-Ukraine?
So Biden did something that was unthinkable. He drove, and Obama too. I stopped it, and then, you know, we had a tragedy happen, actually. It was a tragedy. The election was a tragedy. But he did something that was unthinkable. He drove China and Russia together. That's not good. If you are just a minor student of history, it's the one thing you didn't want to do, because they're basically natural enemies. Russia has tremendous amounts of land. China has tremendous amounts of people, and China needs Russia land. But because of pure stupidity, they were driven together. And you know what? That's what it is. I don't know that it's going to stay that way, because it really is. There's a natural friction there. But I think that today's meeting went really well, and I think we maybe will have a good result. But I just don't like to talk about it. That's why I agreed to do your interview, and I said, you know what, I'll do it, Sean. But that was like 2 days ago. I had no idea that. I said, Sean, are you going to ask me about what we
basically
just
say on national TV, I regret saying yes to doing this interview.
I shouldn't have done it, but that's okay.
You don't have to
By the
answer.
way, I have to say to the audience, this guy's a fantastic person. He's a great patriot. You love the country.
I love our country.
You are a very smart cookie. For anybody that ever questioned that, which I don't think there are too many, and just an outstanding man.
I love the fact that there's a possibility of peace everywhere. This is not insignificant. I agree with you. I don't like to see the dying. I don't think I'd want to see the books that you saw today.
I didn't like looking. I was very sad to watch and see.
When you talked before coming here about the consequences for Vladimir Putin being severe, I found that interesting. Severe would be defined by me. India doesn't buy your oil. The European Union won't buy it. And why in the back of my head was I thinking, wait a minute, Donald Trump just delayed a possible increase in tariffs on China. Why do I think that probably President Trump was thinking ahead, that maybe if you had to, that would have been part of the consequences? Well,
because of what happened today, I think I don't have to think about that. Now, I may have to think about it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, but we don't have to think about that right now. I think the meeting went very well.
All right. Do you ever think Hillary Clinton, the author of the bought and paid for Russian disinformation dossier, the author of the Russia hoax, going into today, would be saying she would nominate you for a Nobel Peace Prize? I don't think you ever expected that happening.
Well, I don't want to be involved in that sense, not because of her. It's very nice. If she said that, it's very nice. I really appreciate it, too, actually. But
she tried to ruin your life, and in many ways, she ruined 3 years of your life.
Well, she made me stronger and tougher, and, we had...
You are way more forgiving than me.
Well, it was a sad chapter in our country's history. I will say that. Look, you can't run a country that way. Vladimir Putin said something, one of the most interesting things. He said, your election was rigged because you have mail-in voting. He said mail-in voting, every election. He said no country has mail-in voting. It's impossible to have mail-in voting and have honest elections. And he said that to me. It was very interesting, because we talked about 2020. He said, you won that election by so much. And that's how he got it. He said, and if you would have won, we wouldn't have had a war. You'd have all these millions of people alive now instead of dead. And he said, and you lost it because of mail-in voting. It was a rigged election. But mail-in voting, Sean, the politicians, I think I'm going to make it a big, I know the answer is that Jimmy Carter, years ago, along with Scoop Jackson and some others, they had a committee, respected people, good committee, Jimmy Carter, good guy. He's a good man. And the conclusion was you can't have mail-in voting. We have mail-in voting. It's so dishonest. They send stuff. Some people get 7 ballots. Look at California with that horrible governor they have. He's one of the worst governors in history. He's incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing. They send out like 38 million ballots. Some people get 5, 6, 7. But Vladimir Putin, smart guy, said you can't have an honest election with mail-in voting. And he said there's not a country in the world that uses it now.
Oh, I would love to see election reform.
Well, we have to do it. I don't know why we're not doing it.
No,
and you bring it up. The Democrats don't want it. Look, the Republicans want it, but not strongly enough. I mean, they got to want it strong, because it can't be honest. it goes through a postman, it goes through somebody else, somebody. You know, when you go to a really well-run voting booth, you go in, you have to hand a card, a picture, or this or that. You don't have everything perfect. You get sent back, go get it. It's very hard to do something fraudulent with a vote.
Paper ballots.
Mail-in voting, they give you boxes of stuff. You have no idea where they came from. This mail-in voting, you can't have a great democracy, republic. You can't have it. Well, maybe that's why we're going to end up with a communist mayor in New York. I don't know. He probably is very happy with mail-in voting. But you can't have a great democracy with mail-in voting.
Voter ID, signature verification, chain of custody controls, updated voter rolls, partisan observers watching the voting all day, the vote counting all night. You do paper ballots, you pick a winner, and everyone goes home with confidence in the integrity.
For 10% of the cost.
Yeah.
So if you do paper ballots, it costs you 10% the cost of machines.
Let me ask you this. The Trump doctrine. I have a definition of it. I've said it many times on TV and on radio. I can give you my version of it, or will you give us your version?
I'd rather have your version.
You want my version?
I'll
give you my version.
I've heard it before.
My version is...
I've heard it before. I love it. Go ahead.
No forever wars. However, some are interpreting that to mean isolationism. No. You've never been an isolationist. Your first term, you beat the hell out of the ISIS caliphate in record time.
Right.
You took out Soleimani on that tarmac. You beat Baghdadi and associates. You dropped the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan. Your second term, you did something I don't think anybody thought would happen, and that is somebody had the courage. They talked a lot about it for decades, taking out Iran's nuclear program. So you're not an isolationist, but you don't want forever wars either, right. And every action you take militarily is consistent with that philosophy.
And I beat ISIS. We wiped out ISIS.
You beat the ISIS caliphate.
General Kane, who's with us right now, he's right outside, actually. General Kane, we call him Raisin Kane. That's his nickname. That's a good name, actually.
What's my nickname? I don't even want to know.
He's a great guy, but General Kane was the one that did it. Beat ISIS. I was told it was going to take 5 years. He did it in 4 weeks.
Wow. Mr. President, I'm going to let you go, but a big day today, and you're going to fly back, I assume, to our nation's capital, and probably have time to reflect on this day. The next step, you had said that you wanted a meeting as quickly as possible, maybe with you, President Zelensky, and President Putin.
Yeah.
I don't know if I trust the two of them in a room alone together. I think it would be better if you are there.
Well, they both want me there.
Did that come up?
Yeah, it did. I mean, they both want me there, and I'll be there. You got to see it out. And it is a big day. I think either way it's a big day, but if we get this solved, it's a really big day because we're going to save a lot of lives.
Are you confident it can happen in a shorter time period?
Fairly short, yeah.
Fairly short. Yeah. So maybe in the next month?
I thought this would be the easiest of them all, and it was the most difficult. Again, you say 6 or 7, it's a lot.
Yeah, time frames are hard.
I've done it. I've saved a lot of lives.
No, it's not. If you get this one, then it'll be 8. My count is 8. If you include the Abraham Accords, is more.
Abraham Accords.
By the way, you know, the impression of you is, I think, a lot of people, because I think there's a false caricature of you, that Donald Trump would be the candidate, the leading candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize, might make some liberals' head explode, but you are involving yourself. You are expending political capital. And there, in many instances, is really not a lot of benefit for the United States, except that you keep doing your day job.
Well, it's interesting because somebody said, if I get this settled, I'll get the Nobel Peace Prize. I said, well, I'm not involved in it, but what about the other 6 wars or whatever it is? I mean, those were big. Those were wars. As an example, you go to Africa, the Congo against Rwanda.
Yeah.
31 years. 8 million people dead, and I settled it. What about?
By the way, how do you settle India, Pakistan?
Well, because I deal with all of the countries for trade. And while I have them on the phone, if I'm dealing with them, or my people, Scott and Howard and all the people that are doing such a great job, and Marco Rubio has been fantastic, JD has been fantastic. We have a great group of people. So if there's a war going on, they say, there's a war going on, and if we're doing trade with one or both of them, I say, we're not going to do a deal unless you make peace. You have no idea. I mean, I've settled wars that have gone on for 35 years, a couple of them, and the Congo and Rwanda, that was 31 years, I think 8 million people dead with machetes, a lot of machete deaths. They walk in, the machetes are swinging all over the place. What a horrible situation, and we got it settled.
Mr. President, I know you may have spent more time. I never did an interview with somebody that said, I regret sitting here doing the interview. You could take it back if you want.
Well, you said 10 minutes, and you've kept me a little bit longer than that.
Mr. President, right. It's a historic day. And I know that Americans, I think this transcends political ideology. I think most people understand that the death, the dying, the war, if it stops, that's a great thing for everybody. I wish you all the success in your mission, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Sean.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Muy pronto, vuelve a escuchar las noticias más relevantes en este canal de noticias.